integrated to rethinking workforce enablement through effective prompting. Our goal today would be to equip you with the clarity and confidence you need to lead your organizations forward. We are very much aware and aligned that many of you are part of initiatives to execute on strategy. And we don't believe in training without the relevant coaching. So I hope we can give you a small taste of the world of Copilot, particularly as we start navigating this as leaders in our organization. So thank you again for joining us. We're excited to explore what's possible. And I'm going to hand you over to our AI guru, Tim Keys, today, which is hosting the session, and some of my colleagues on the call, Charlotte, Lee, Freddie, welcome, and Moriarty. And so we just want to welcome you all and trusting the session is valuable for you. So thank you. Over to you, Tim.
Great. Thank you, Bridget. Appreciate the introduction. So as you heard, my name is Tim Keys. I'm the Microsoft Portfolio Manager here at Impactful. So my role is all things Microsoft, but I don't know if passionate's the right word when it comes to Copilot. I think it's more obsessive than passionate at the moment. I'm just fascinated by this topic. Been working with it for a while because I do a lot of work with Microsoft. So was exposed to Copilot right in the beginning. So, it's one of these journeys that I feel quite strongly about. Please, if you need anything, you want to get hold of me, that's my email address, tim.keys@impactful. I just want to mention one other thing. Charlotte has disciplined me not to switch on my chat, because then I get distracted and start answering those questions. So she's promised she will monitor the chat. If you have any questions, please feel free to put it in there and she'll stop me. But I haven't switched on the chat for that reason, so that I don't get distracted. The other thing is, you'll notice this isn't the typical presentation format that we do when we normally do the impacted work. The reason is we really want this to be interactive, because this is slightly different to an information session. This is more around, I'd like to talk to you about how to think about Copilot as a concept, because, there are a whole lot of decisions to make. There are a whole lot of concerns. There are licensing implications, there are technical implications. So the idea here is to hopefully answer some of those questions for you. But the biggest thing for me is to create a framework, give you a framework that you can evaluate the business case for Copilot, and Copilot plus this new buzzword, which is agents. And I want to show you how it all fits together and hopefully give you a business value justification for paying the fee for the paid for product. So I want to show you potentially, instead of seeing it as an additional cost, to see it as an important part of your operational expenditure, and there might be opportunities to offset it against other costs. So I want to show you that and show you that business justification. So I'm going to do it in three ways. The first one is I want to explain the Copilot environment for you very quickly. So this is not to give you a lot of detail around what Copilot is and how it works, although I'll mention that briefly. If you want the deep dives, I'll show you later on where you can get that information, or some of the courses we have available that would allow you to go really deep into any of these topics. My aim today is to talk to you about Copilot from a strategic level, because our assumption here is that you are here to discuss the why Copilot and how do we roll it out, what are the best practices. So we're going to do that first. And then just for fun, if you do have a Copilot license, I'm going to take you through some very short demos, just very quickly to show you some of the, can I use the word sexy? Apologize if I offend anybody, but some of the sexy features that, or the things you can do with Copilot right out of the box. And then I'm going to give you examples of use cases that are a lot more than that. So I just want to give you a taste. As I said, if you want more of a taste, we can help you. Then the third part is this model I'm talking about. If you are going to become an AI-centered organization, specifically in the world of Microsoft, And I'm here specifically talking Copilot. So AI is a much bigger conversation, but today it's the Copilot. So there are two things I want to leave with today. Number one is I want everybody in your company that has a Microsoft 365 license, and I'm talking about standard Microsoft 365, to be using Copilot Chat. Because every person who has Microsoft 365 licenses, they get access to Copilot Chat, which is the equivalent of ChatGPT, but does more. So that's the first thing that I want to show you. The second thing would be to give you a real business case for why you want to invest in Copilot 365. It's a lot bigger than purely converting PowerPoints and writing text for you and creative work. It goes much bigger than that. So that's what the third module is going to be, looking at how do we enable AI-centered transformation. All right, so just very quickly, I'm just interested from your side. So I'm going to do it through the reactions. So what I'd like you to do, if you have an entry level to kind of, I've played with it and I've messed around with it, or you haven't touched Copilot ever before, can you just give me a thumbs up? If you are very experienced in Copilot, been doing it for a while, and you consider yourself a fundi, give me the heart. So if you're fairly new, give me a thumbs up. If you are seriously experienced, give me the heart. Okay, so generally thumbs up, and I saw one or two hearts. Okay, couple of hearts. Oh, good. All right, excellent. Good. So let's talk about Copilot and how it gets put together. So the first thing you need to understand is that Gen AI is a response to a business imperative. This is not something that somebody woke up and said, this is a great idea. The reality is all of us are struggling to get things done. We are having to produce faster, respond smarter, think more strategically, and at the same time, don't make any mistakes, be consistent, accurate, and focus on business. I was talking to a company the other day. They said since they've started at this business, he's been there, I think he said 6 years. He's been through three programs where the business has been consolidated. And he says he is now literally doing 3 people's work because they just dropped headcount and the responsibilities don't go away. He's just had to pick them up. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that, is we just got to work at such a rate. We're expected to do so many things so much more quickly. So what Copilot is there to do, and I will say Copilot, and you'll see later on why I'm saying, to quote Fly Saf Air, why Copilot should be your Gen AI tool of choice. It's about enabling better work. So it's not about getting you to do things faster. It's about improving the quality of your work. And today I'll show you how Copilot it augments rather than replaces. It's not designed to replace human intelligence. It's a tool in your hands that allows you to do some serious stuff. So the better you know how to prompt, the better you know how the tools work and what you can and can't do in Copilot, the more you'll be able to achieve. And then the other thing, and why you want to pay the dollars for the additional Copilot 365, is the fact that not only are you unlocking the external large language model, that's known as external web grounding. So, if you're using ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or, whichever one of these tools, it's querying external sources. With Copilot 365, when you take the additional license, you are now working internally. So not only are you talking web, you're talking work. So you have access to all your SharePoint site stuff, your emails, your Teams, your spreadsheets, everything you're working on inside of your organization, provided it's stored in OneDrive or SharePoint, is accessible to you. And then added to this, I'll show you later on, when you have this license, you get all sorts of connectors and plugins, as well as the ability to create something through 365 called an agent. So a lot of people don't realize how much comes with this license. And that's what I want to show you now, is how can we harness the power of AI? And think about it this way. You think how brilliant web-based AI is. You know, the other day I was looking to do something and I typed in about 5 prompts and it created something for me that normally would take me 2 days. And I'm not even exaggerating. I had to build a program and I used Gen AI to build the program. I then asked it to give me exercises and I asked it to create the PowerPoints. And what normally took me days, because I'm still skillful at it, I could do it so much faster because now I've got an AI assistant on steroids who's running around getting me all this info. And the secret that I'm going to show you is with Copilot 365, not only do you get access to the external, you get access to the internal, and you can point it to specific sources. So if you create a library of a whole lot of documents you use every day, you would be able to access it very easily using the technology. So great example, one of my clients I'm working with right now, they're busy going through an ISO audit. And I showed them in the training how to create we're going to talk about a little bit later on, but how to create an agent. And now everything they do related to the ISO project is calling the information from that SharePoint site. So I'm going to get carried away, but that's fine. So the idea is harness external and internal. That's the secret. Now, I want to ask you this. Where's the world going? So think about where are we going to be in 5 years' time? And a couple of my colleagues and I were discussing this terminology this morning, but there's a really good study called the Work Trend Index. So Microsoft every year does a whole series of interviews and works specifically with LinkedIn to have a look at what the trends are. And for 2025, they identified something called a frontier firm. So a frontier firm is a characteristic of having 2 things. One, on-demand intelligence. And you can read into intelligence whichever way you want. You know, when we talk about intelligence, it's, do I have access to the information I need? Combined with hybrid teams. So a hybrid team is that a human being has access to AI. So whether we are talking about Copilot 365, which in its own way is a kind of agent, or any agents that we could create, the frontier firm, the people right at the front of this, are learning how to leverage the power of these AI tools. So it's not replacing, it's augmenting. And I'll show you some examples in a couple of secs around what this looks like. So what the trends are right now is 80% of us feel like I do. Is this, we're feeling like we just don't have enough time or energy. Wants us no more. So that's the first part. 80% are feeling we've had enough. 53% are saying we've got to do more with less. Standard strategic requirement from any organization. And then the third one is that they're expecting that technology somehow miraculously is going to meet this demand. So a lot of really high level executives have bought into the hype. The issue is they just don't know how. So the problem here is everybody talks a good game. So Microsoft talks a great game. You know, Google does. We all talk this really good game around what AI means. So the challenge for any organization is not the why, it's the how do we implement. So allow me to build the business case for Copilot. So the big thing here is if you're looking at this frontier world, it's me plus my me plus my agents. The logic is it should transform how we do work. So examples are, how do we collaborate? So great example right now is the one in Teams. So I'm sitting on my Teams call, I'm using Copilot that gives me a summary of the call, tells me who said what, when I was mentioned, what the tasks are, gives me a whole summary of this whole thing. I can interrogate the chat, and in a couple of months' time, I'll even get a summary of screen shares. Now, that's a classic example of how in Teams we can collaborate. One of the new features coming up is that Copilot becomes a virtual person who acts like the chairperson of the meeting and manages time and stops, and you hear this voice, this little guy popping up, a lady guy popping up and saying, "You've had your time, Tim, thanks. We are now going to hear from, somebody else." So this is where this thing's going to, is the ability to work together. You'll see later on in Copilot chat, you can create a prompt and share it with your colleagues and work on it. So you can all be running prompts at the same time and be working on one specific page, just like you would collaborate in Word or PowerPoint or Excel. So that's a big thing, is how's it helping us work together? The other one is it just gets stuff done far more quickly. You cannot believe how much time this product saves me. I'm a content creator for a living, and I'm busy creating content. I'm never leaving work. I'm creating pictures, I'm inserting charts, I'm creating diagrams straight out of Word. And then when I'm done, I'm creating PowerPoint presentations, and it's being done directly. So this logic of the stuff you would normally do takes a while. This you're certainly doing really quickly. I want to give you a great example. So we have inside of LRMG and Impactful, we have these weekly reports that have to get generated. And I trained a lot of the people internally, because you have to use the technology you teach. And we looked at those reports. We were pure email. And we built prompts that took those from the email and generated sales reports. Now, Bridget will tell you, because she's the poor person who has to consolidate all of this into one, how long that normally would have taken. So everybody has to submit their stuff. Then somehow you've got to get the formatting right and the central themes and summarize and get it in the right order. We've now taken processes, and to be honest, we were always late because it took so long. We're now getting this done in, I would imagine, Bridget, 10th of the time. Purely because, and I saw it the other day, where one of the directors, wasn't Bridget, it was one of the other teams. He said, here's my sales team, consolidate all of their reports, please, and then put it into a table, each one of their results, and compare to each other and to last month's numbers. And bang, 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 Copilot did its thing and created the table. So that's the kind of stuff you can start doing when you've got a large language model that understands you, knows where your stuff is, and can do the same thing as these clever large language models that are working. So the logic here is you're doing this internally as well as externally. So the idea is, imagine if you could do this with Teams, Word, Outlook, PowerPoint, Excel, etc. So this is what you get with your 365 license. You get the Copilot chat with web grounding. And I'm going to show it to you in a little while, but I'm going to show you the one that comes with the Copilot 365 license. Now, web grounding, it's going external. You can also attach it to, if you want to agents. So by using this Copilot Studio, you can create agents that you can access, which means that it's internal data. Secondly, you get the work grounding, which means it's picking up everything through Graph. So Graph is a tool that allows me to pick up anything in 365. So anything you're doing in Microsoft 365, Graph will pick that up. However, Graph also has a series of connectors. So you'll see, for example, I mentioned in the invite, how do you connect to your line of business apps? That's done through the graph connectors. And when you have a 365 license, the connectors are included. I can't even remember the list. It gets bigger every month. But for example, I use it all the time where I get it to connect to our financial system and I get it to connect to my CRM system. So anytime I'm doing work on dynamic CRM, I'm doing it all in Copilot because the connector is giving me the data. So the other day I said, tell me who are the customers I haven't followed up for a while? What would you suggest I talk to them about? And it went to my dynamic CRM and recommended 10 companies, who the contact person was, what I had worked with them on before, and what they recommended I talk to them about. Now, how long would that take you to achieve if you're in sales? I see some of our salespeople are getting excited here. So that's the work around it. It's integrated with 365 apps. So it's integrating with Word, Excel, PowerPoint. It's all embedded, as you'll see now. And then Copilot Studio is the tool that allows you to create these agents. And it also manages the connectors. Now, the good news, if you have 365, you get access to Copilot Studio. It's in the license. And the even better news is you can create agents without knowing a single bit of code. We run a one-day course here where we teach people how to create no-code agents. Using Copilot Studio, it's all wizard-driven and options, and you create the agents through prompts. So you tell Copilot what you're looking for, it then creates the agent for you. Now, here's the most important slide I want to show you today. So this is the journey to a frontier firm. What is the process? And then I'm going to give you a great tool that allows you to figure this out. So the first thing you're looking for is you want to get people onto Copilot 365. Everything that I've spoken about, that either they're on Copilot chat at a minimum, so they're getting the web grounding, or if possible, to put them onto Copilot 365 so they can get work done. And Graph can do its work with all of the 365 products. Then once you've got that sorted, you start having a look at your business processes. And now the business processes say, imagine if I could do everything in one place. So I do not, when I start on a Monday, I don't go into my email and my Teams and everything else. I go into my Copilot chat, which is default open for me every day. I go into Copilot chat and I don't have a lot of friends, so Copilot's my friend. So I say, good morning, Copilot, what's on for today? And Copilot has a look at everything I've got, and it says, oh, Tim, you got these appointments for this time. You promised to do this. You need to submit your report. And it gives me everything that's up for the day. And then I say, tell me about this meeting. Oh, no, you're meeting with this company. So, well, tell me about this company. So I'm having conversations with my mates over coffee, and I'm getting all my information to plan for the day. Now, that is a combination of Graph, which is 365, and the plugins and connectors. So that takes a little bit of extended knowledge, a little bit of technical support, but the thinking is, okay, so Copilot works here. What other bits of information do I need to access? And so be aware, plugins and connectors are generally one way. So they generally create the ability to pull information from another source into your Copilot. So the next layer is, what connections do we want to create? So if you're using things like SAP and any of these other products, then you have a look at what information can we pull, and then you build out the connectors. Of course, you've got to look at security and things like that. Once you've got that connection, the third element is to say, right, how can I use agents to manage my business flows? Now, I don't know if you remember years ago, there were a lot of people who made money on business transformation, looking at business processes, business process reengineering. That's going to happen again now, because what you used to do and you used to ask IT to build, and used to take 6 months to build an app. By then it was, out of date. You can now do on the fly using prompting. So what example of a Copilot agent I'm going to show you later on is being able to process. So, for example, a customer sends you a Teams meeting, or it's an email, says, I'd like to order 3 of these widgets, please. You literally type in / the name of the agent and tell it what to do with that information. And it'll process the order and run the workflow. That's Copilot agents. Another one we use is we've created an agent with our course overviews, or we're busy creating it. So if somebody says, I need a training on Copilot, I would be able to type into my agent, customer needs Copilot training, and specifically on agents. And it'll then go to that particular agent, give me that information. So agents allow you to look at existing business flows, and instead of spending entire, fortunes on creating robotic processes, AI is the new way to do this, because it's so insanely clever, because it's learning about you all of the time, because it's able to understand the processes. So that deserves a clap of hands there, I think. Doesn't that make you excited? No, you don't have to clap if you don't want to. There we go.
Tim,
right. So yes.
Before you continue, we've got 2 interesting questions from Lofang. She's asking, on Microsoft Creator, can templates be created with company-specific CI applied for mass distribution, such as when you need to create PowerPoint presentations, one can select the CI line template on Creator. When is that going to be released?
Please send me an email. I'll give it to you. It's available. You just need to know the process. So it's being used in the US. It's coming through now, but it's very specific. If I understand what you're talking about, you're talking about being able to create the template plus all of the pictures and things that are specific to your company. So that is available. There's a very specific process, and you have to set up your templates in a certain way. So please chat to me, and then I'll definitely give you that information.
And then Albert has as well in the example. Have you read it?
Yeah. So Albert, to answer that question.
In the example of consolidate.
Sorry, you first.
No, please go, Tim. Sorry, apologies.
So his question is around how accurate, reliable is the data. The answer is, when you're looking at internal graph, the data is as accurate as the people creating it. So in the one example I used is it's emails. So it's creating a consolidated information on the email. It's creating consolidated views on my dynamic CRM. So you've heard, Albert, of GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. That's exactly what's at play here.
Sometimes it augments, so you may not have the stats of the South and Western Cape, but you've got it for all the other regions, and it may just make up a number for the Western Cape. So yes, there's some information that's going to accurately reflect, but if some information is missing, or it thinks it should know, or maybe when you said WC, which actually was water closet, maybe that WC was Western Cape, and then I guess that's always the worry when you're looking for analytical data that you want to make decisions on whether it augmented the data or assumed data, etc.
Yeah, good point. And good news. The first piece of good news is the best way to use 365 is to have structured data, so that you don't have those issues. The second one, I don't know if you've played with GPT-5 inside of Copilot, because that's a game changer. It's gone from a 9% failure rate, or where it hallucinates, to just over 1%. And what it does is, before it runs the prompt, it tells you what it's going to do and what its assumptions are, and then you're able to agree to it. So that's been significantly improved with GPT-5, which is in Copilot, by the way. Remember, if you're going to use GPT-5 outside of Copilot, you're going to run 5 prompts and they'll lock you out and you have to pay $20. In Copilot, you've immediately got access to GPT-5. which is a game changer. The quality of the output of GPT-5 is exceptional. I hope you all know what I mean by that. Right, so just very quickly, I want to summarize. We're standing at the threshold of this new way of doing work. Copilot allows you to automate stuff that's taking time, plus allows you to do this analytic stuff. It's intuitive, dynamic, and intelligent. And I want to stress this. Copilot learns about you. So the more you use the product, the whole time it's figuring out your style, how you write, how you respond, the information that you need, the people you contact regularly, and it then starts improving accuracy for that reason. And I'll mention it right now because it's so important, and we'll talk about it again. All of that adaptation is put into your little sandbox. They literally call it that. So it's fully secured by Microsoft 365. There is none of this going to share to a large language model. So although the Microsoft component is adapting, it's a fully secured environment. So not even your colleagues get to see it unless you let them. So it's a very secure way of it learning about you, improving your processes, but in a totally secure way. So that's a very important part of 365. I was involved in a disciplinary, not me, but in a disciplinary with somebody at one of our clients where they shared a really sensitive document on ChatGPT, and it went to a disciplinary. They call it overshare, where people are putting these very sensitive things into ChatGPT, like a full-blown proposal and saying, please create an executive summary. And what they're not realizing is they're training up the model. Microsoft 365, whether you're using chat, 365 Copilot chat or 365 Copilot, fully secured. At no point will it go anywhere near any external model. So let me give you an example of how this would work. So if I said, help me prepare a summary of key customer complaints this month, that's all I have to tell it. And it'll know where to go find that information, the tone to adopt because it knows my style, and how to structure the info. So it's constantly learning the best way to do it. After a while, your prompts become really lazy. So it knows what I do for a living now. Now, I'm not going to go into any detail here, but just to show you how they all get put together. So 365 lets you do a whole lot of stuff. Now, I'm very happy to share more documentation on this and to show you where these are. But these are just the basic things you can do with 365 around, drafting, rewriting, retrieving, analytics, creating charts, Outlook, working on your emails, Teams following up, and then cross-platform, like turning Word documents into PowerPoint or inserting spreadsheets into presentations, which, by the way, I always get asked about when we train PowerPoint, is why is it always so ugly when I insert a spreadsheet into a presentation? You must try it with Copilot. It formats for you. And then you can even like this, you can tell it, there's a meeting and say, put it in my to-do, please. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with Copilot by itself. And unfortunately, I wish I could show you all of this, but we would be here a long time. Then I want to talk to you about agentic AI, because this is the game changer. So remember I said you've got Copilot 365. You've now got the connectors if you have the Copilot 365 license. The other component is Microsoft has made Copilot the front end for agents. Now think about Copilot 365 as a form of an agent. It's a front end that allows you to do a whole lot of different things. So if you're using Copilot, the Copilot view in your Microsoft 365, effectively it allows you to do all of that work. So it acts as an agent. Now, the other thing you can do now is you can create your own agents. Now, this you need to listen very, very carefully. So the The big thing about these agents, if you have Copilot 365, now please listen very carefully because Microsoft confuses people with these licenses. Copilot 365 is what you pay $30 for. That product allows you to create agents that will talk to a whole lot of back-end sources. And I'll show you some examples now. So if you've got Copilot 365, you have Copilot Studio, you can create some really funky stuff, which means like it can process orders, run analytics, do all sorts of very clever things. The agents themselves, you don't pay for any licensing aside from that. Now, if you have Copilot, the standard Copilot chat, which is what you get with 365, you can create an agent that talks to SharePoint server or OneDrive. So in other words, you can create an agent that will interrogate information sitting in a document library. But anything else where you are talking to third parties, so now you're processing this thing on, Dynamics or whatever, anytime you're doing that, instead of it being part of the license like this is, you would have to pay for use. So Azure has this model that would then, every time you run the process, it'll bill you a couple of US cents per process. So that's, again, nothing wrong with having Copilot chat. I'll show it to you now. But if you have Copilot 365, there's no additional cost to these connectors and to creating the agents and the Copilot Studio. And as long as the third party has built those connectors. Otherwise, you would have to use Copilot Studio to do that. So let me give you an example of how Copilot Studio is a game changer, and then using Copilot as the front end. So here are some examples of agents that have been built. They're just broadly. So Accenture did this one to look at dealing with the people who are past due payments. So it's running a query, coming back and talking to the agent about, how do I follow up on this? So it automated and streamlined those payments and sped up the collection and boosting the bottom line. Estee Lauder had a one that looked specifically at customer insights. So it went to data sources like its social media and all of the market research, consolidated all that information and created an insight or a dashboard with all of the customer-facing information. Now, again, think how long that would take you. It's done through natural language. So Estee Lauder could say, tell me about this particular product, how people responded, they would get the response. Or you could pre-generate a whole series of charts and things. Now, Bayer did another one where they used it for R&D. So I do this for learning about Copilot and AI. I've got a document library where I put everything in there. And when I want to learn stuff, I interrogate that agent rather than trying to find it everywhere. Because to Albert's point, not all information is 100% accurate. So if I am pointing it to an agent, I know that it's calling that database or that SharePoint site, and I know that information in there I vetted. So then there's no hallucination. So the Bayer in this case is it improved their R&D ridiculous amount, 6 hours per week. A Holland American Line, they created this concierge with useful answers. So this was a customer-facing agent. Dow did one which looking at losses and streamlining shipping. And Wells Fargo did one which was, their processing and searching around customer information. So look at this. So the queries went from 10 minutes to 30 seconds. Now, I don't have time to explain the technology, but it's a lot less complicated than paying somebody for 6 months to build your app. So the Copilot Studio and AI creates a lot of the business logic that before we had to pay someone to program. So this is what I wanted you to get Copilot 365, then what do I need to connect to? What are the agents? Now, how do you now look at transformation? So if I've got you excited about this, and I'm going to quickly show you the products, just in 15 minutes. But if you look at the process for how you can enable an AI transformation, Bridget mentioned some of the coaching we do. This is the framework that we work off. So the first one is get this right first. It all starts with top level acceptance. So if top level isn't buying into it and there's no clear vision, there's no way of, an adoption, governance, etc. built out, you're going to struggle to move to the next layer. And that's the one warning I want to give you. Garbage in, garbage out. So if you've got a well-designed system and your securities are in place and everything's good, AI is brilliant, but it will expose information that is not properly secured or properly structured. So before you start looking at really rolling out AI, you have to get someone to have a look at your data security and governance, or make sure that that's in place. So I'll show you what that looks like now. Once you've created the culture, that's really what it's about. It's the preparation. You then want to roll this out, because what I've found is the biggest risk is lack of user adoption. So the biggest risk here is that we say to people, here's AI, off you go. And, it looks intuitive, but like anything else, it gives you the ability to use about 10% rather than the full capability. So when you look at the AI for employees, the way that you take it to market, or to your employees, your user adoption, the way you develop those skills, because it's always updating. So lunch and learn sessions, online learning platforms, continuous training, you have to enable, because otherwise you're investing in a license that people aren't using 100%. You want to maximize this license. And then once you've got the users on board, start looking at your business processes. And now we start looking at how can I agentify this? So what could I do straight out of 365? But then also, where can I leverage the agents? And I'll show you some examples now of those agents to give you an idea. Right, so let's pause here to answer any further questions, and then I'll quickly do that demo. It'll be very quick. Let me have a look. Oh, okay. Mauku, thank you for bringing up the analyst agent. I'm going to show it right now. So the analyst agent is an agent that's specifically designed to analyze data. It's optimized for that. And so if you're looking at analytics, it's not a bad way to do it. And here's a hint. If you don't have the Copilot 365, you can upload an Excel spreadsheet. You can upload the data straight into Analyst Agent, and it can analyze the spreadsheet. So you can't point it to data sources, but you can upload a series of documents and use analyst data to look at it. So let me show you a few things. Any other questions before I do that?
Hi, team. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I just want to find out, when you have documents, because obviously our administration department deals with a whole lot of document customer information, and they have to always think on their feet around questions that they have to respond to customers. So answers. Where if then all this information is sitting in a SharePoint, how do we connect that Copilot go and source out that information from that?
Great question. Thank you for that. So if you look at my screen, the way it works is the agent that you create. So these are examples of agents. So you can see there, these are ones that that Microsoft makes available by default. So they're busy working on agents. These agents are available to anybody with a Microsoft 365 license. Now, I can create an agent here. So if you look at this example, I don't know why I deleted the one I used for the demo, but I can create an agent here. So I click on Create Agent. And when I give it a name, I just want to show you what this looks like. So to create the agent, so let's assume that I have got Copilot 365 running, got SharePoint in the back end. And by the way, you can do this with 365. Copilot's been a bit slow. So what I do here is I describe the agent. So this isn't what I want to show you now. But when you look at configure, you would point it to that particular SharePoint site. So when it says knowledge, where's this information sitting? All I'd have to do is point it to the SharePoint site there. So now I have an agent that'll look like this. So this is the analyst agent. It will then, I can type in my question there and it would do it. But the other thing is you can build your own prompts. And you can build, if you have the Copilot Studio, you can build actions, which says you haven't filled this in, please fill this in. And it'll say, do you want to do that now? You say, yeah, you type in and it uploads. So think about it as talking and somebody does the work. That's how this thing works. Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much, Tim. It does. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. So just very quickly, I wish I could show you more, but just very quickly, the best way to get hold of Copilot 365 is to go into your M365 portal. The reason is I found that for some reason, it's not meant to, but the app that comes with Windows 11 sometimes doesn't work as well. I don't know why. But so I always come through here. There is the option of doing it through Teams as well. So there is a Copilot chat view through Teams, but I also find that's clogged. It's got too much stuff around it. So this is where I spend my life. This thing launches every morning. So now when you talk about the grounding, you can see there I've got work and web grounding. So anything here, so you can see the kind of stuff that I've been asking it to do. Now, if that's what I've done on work, this is what I've done on web. So I can get a summary of all my web stuff and my work. Now, if you select work, it'll go to work first, then to web. So, for example, here, summarize messages from our manager. Bang, there's the information. So that's the first thing that works incredibly well, is the fact that you get both here. And it'll give you work first, and it'll give you web second. All right? I mentioned to you, please remember that you want to switch on ChatGPT 5. Now, just a comment here. The reason that it's toggling at the moment is GPT-5 is a lot more process heavy. So it gives you all of the steps and it's a lot more detailed in its approach. So if you want to save the planet, try not to use GPT-5 for everything. When you're looking for really in-depth research or you want to see the working out, to Albert's point, you don't want it to make it up. You want to see the steps it follows. You want to click on ChatGPT 5. But please do me a favor and play with that. It's really, really profound. Now, the second thing I wanted to show you is these are optimized agents. So you can have a look at the various bits. So if you're researching a customer, for example, research is the way to go. You want to research something, this tool is optimized for that. If you want to do prompts, I use this learning coach all the time. So I have the learning coach, it even creates the assessments for me. So I say, I want to teach this, what should I cover? And please create multiple choice questions. So that's what the learning coach does. So the way you switch this on, if you don't see it, you just want to add the agents here. So if you click on all agents, you'll see them here, and you can just add it to your list. So you can just pin and unpin it. Now, just very quickly, I just want to show you this one. So the researcher would research like a company. Now, here's the secret. And again, I hope I'm not confusing you. The secret here is this is web and it is grounding. So if you've only got a 365 license, it'll go to the web. So it'll go externally unless you add the documents. So if you've only got Microsoft 365, you would have to click here and you can add documents up to 20. And you can then get it to research those documents. The other thing you can do, so if I say tell me about Impactful, it'll now go and look at everything from a research perspective that it thinks I want to know about Impactful. And it's now going to go to all my data sources. Remember, I've got my dynamic CRM set up. I've got all my interactions with Impactful. It would then give me that information. So now you can see what I was saying. It's now saying, what would you like? Do you want to create documents, whatever? So now I'm saying, whoops, sorry, I should have been more specific. And I'd say impactful.co.za, for example. So then it'll go and research the company and everything about them. I should have been more specific. So those are all of the agents. Now you can create your own, which, as I said, can connect to OneDrive or SharePoint. That you do without paying any extra. If you have 365 Copilot, that will be automatic. You can create those agents with all the workflows. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you, just to get you excited, is there are a couple of other brilliant tools in here. So I want to show you a conversation I had earlier. So this thing, when you have conversations, so let's say we've been working here. This is the meeting that I just had about Impactful, that is doing the work. You can see here that you can edit it in pages. So you can run a whole series of prompts and then store this as pages. So the results get stored on the right-hand side. I see ChatGPT's just stolen this. So you can store this on the right-hand side and you can add it and then you can edit it. So let me show you an example here of the work I've been doing around strategy for Copilot. And you can see, give me some examples of common use cases. Here are all the common use cases. Now here you can see that I can change these heading styles. I can move things around. I can insert. I can, move it up or down. I can delete. And then when I've created all of this, I can click on this button and share it. So there I can share it. Whoever I send the request to can come onto my page and work with me on it. The other thing I can do is whatever I created here, I click on the open in Word and it saves it as a Word document. I'm really glad to hear that, Lebogang. I'm really glad to hear you have to use Copilot. It's such a high risk. You can't believe how people are oversharing at the moment. She just made a comment that they're not allowed to use ChatGPT. All right, so the other thing I wanted to show you very quickly, and then I'm done with this section, is if you want to look at certain documents, so you just want to create a few, apart from creating an agent here that you can analyze. The other thing you can do here is if you go down, now in all fairness, Microsoft stole this from Google. There's an option called notebooks. So what you do with notebooks is, let's say you're doing research like I am here. So the Copilot course that we train is called MS4018. So I've put every bit of resource collateral that I could find. Instead of creating an agent, I just created a notebook called MS4018. So what this does is all of the documents I've uploaded, so I've added them as a reference. So all of my PowerPoints, Word documents, internet links related to that course are sitting on this notebook. And now if I want to ask it any questions, I'll say, tell me about Copilot chat, and it'll go to where I've uploaded that and give me that information. So that's not even an agent, it's just a notebook. And then one last thing, if you have the license, please go and play with Create. You must see this funky stuff this stuff's creating. So if you want to create a chart or a workflow or a process flow or a diagram or a cartoon strip, look at all this stuff. This is all in Create. So this is thanks to a product called Del-E. All right, you excited about that? I need to speed up, otherwise I'm going to take too long. So the next thing I want to show you very quickly is in Microsoft Word. So I've already opened this particular document, and I just want to show you how this works. So I've gone into Word. At the top, I've said, I want you to create a report based on this document. Now, to the question earlier around creating consistency, if you've got a template, you can say, create this document, but it must be based on this template, or create this document must look exactly like this one. So you can reference other documents, and it'll then create this new one based on that information. Now, you can put in 5 documents here. So you can say, take the information about the company, the price list, the company overview and value proposition, and you just name it, and you say, create a proposal document using this template or with these headings. And please, just one piece of advice here. This thing does not find anything that is not on OneDrive or SharePoint. You won't find it on a hard drive. It can't find it there. It can only find OneDrive and SharePoint, unless you've got some connectors running. So here I've said, go to this market analysis report, and I want you to create a project report, but I want you to create an executive summary, introduction, project objectives, and discussion. So now I click on Go. It's now going to create that for me. So you can see it's now creating it. Now, I'm not going to go much further than this, but if you look at how this demo works, the next one would be, I want to add some information. So I can say, create a set of bullet points that will outline the following. I can then, for example, here, if this had its results. So let me keep this. So have a look at these two. I can now select this. I can tell it to rewrite, to reestablish, change tone. There's plenty of things I can do. But here inside of Copilot, I can then say, you can see my options. So I can rewrite it, which is an auto rewrite that'll decide, what it's going to do. Or the other one is I could tell it now what to do with this info. I'm going to cheat and tell it to put it in a table. And it now creates a table for me. So there are a whole lot of things that save you incredible amount of time. And then I just want to show you one more thing. A lot of time with the Copilot, with Word, you just want to see the summary of everything that's been done. So if I click on keep it, sorry, let me slow down. It will then give me the option to create a summary of this document. So it gives you all sorts of things that you want to do. So I can insert the summary here. Right, so that's Word. I just want to show you those two things. I want to show you in PowerPoint quickly a similar thing. So what I've done here is I've got promotion plan for Chai Tea. I want to turn this into a PowerPoint slide. Now, to your question earlier, I will show you how to do this in a more sophisticated way, but you can choose your design here. So right now it's a standard design, but I can change the design to, and this is where it needs to be stored. So I could have presentation templates that are enforced, but you have to design them in a very specific way. So I'm going to select that design. Now watch what it does, which is so cool, is you've got the test. Now I'm going to say go. Now before, what it used to do, used to create all those PowerPoints. Oh, Copilot's been battling today. So it creates, whoops, I'm so sorry. What it does is it creates all of the slides, but in normal text. So you can decide that, I really don't know why it's doing. Let me try one more time. Anyway, so what it should do, let me do it something else here.
Maybe it
Hopefully
needs you
it'll do this.
to redo it quickly.
Yeah, let me do this. I won't attach it to a document. About how many habits of your highly effective people? Is it 7? I think it's 7.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I'm saying create a presentation on that topic. I try to pre-do it to make myself clever. So look what it's doing now. It's creating the instructions. So it's saying, there's your instruction. This is what it's going to cover. Second section, this is what's going to cover. So it's even put it in sections for me. If I want to add anything, I can move it up or down. And at this point, I can delete, I can edit, or I could add further information above or below. So if I want more around personal effectiveness, I click there and run a new prompt. When I'm finished and I've done everything and it likes the whole lot, so it's created all for me, I can then generate the slides. So when I click on it here, you'll see it generates the slides for me. So I just wanted to show you that quickly, but there's so many other things you can do here. So you can tell it, create a new slide that's got this information. I don't like this design. Can you insert a diagram that'll have the same information? Insert a table. So now it's creating all of this. You can see it's now created this in a view you'll recognize. So there are the habits. I just want to show you the end of it is once we've done this whole lot, it'll now create the slides, but you'll see it'll create it with sections. The other thing it does is it creates with speaker notes. So not only do you get the slides, have a look at this. I mean, that's not bad. Now, the trick, by the way, to get this done, the trick is to have a good template. If your template's wrong, it comes out horribly. So, Phyllis, you have a comment?
No, I'm liking what I see. Thank you.
See, was that a good? That was an impressed sound. Okay, good. So you can see how it's automatically done that. Now, one more thing I just want to show you, and hopefully I won't have the same problem in Excel. And I wish I could teach you more on this. And I'm busy working on an advanced Excel course right now that would help you do this. So what I did in the beginning is, here's my table. And it's very fussy about this table, by the way. So here's my table. I want to understand these total sales. So I want to know between artisanal and pre-made, how are they physically doing? So I tell Copilot, please create a chart comparing artisanal to pre-made. Now, how long would it take you to create this chart and know which fields and information to create? Because the problem with the way we do it right now, very difficult to put the source data in. Whereas here it's using Python code. So if you say, I want you to take this information, and I'm going to show you an example now, take this information and create a chart, it knows how to identify it and write the Python code, which is a glorified macro that'll do it for you. So it's now created here on the new sheet. So if I click on add a new sheet, it's now created a pivot chart or pivot table. And if you know anything about pivot table, this isn't easy to create. And I can now, here's my chart. I can say, well, I'm interested only in the first quarter, so January, February, and March. And you'll see it then reconfigures my chart. Now, that took me how long? All it took me was to ask that one question. Now, what I could do, and I'm not going to do it now, I'm afraid I'm going to run out of time. I could say, in cell B14, please add up that field and then copy it across. Or I could say, in column H, please add this. Now, there's a new feature that they've just brought in literally yesterday or the last few days, where instead of equals SUMIF, you type in equals Copilot, open your brackets and tell it what you want, and it'll generate the calculation. So if you say, I don't know if you know what concatenate is in Excel. It's bringing two columns into one. So instead of knowing how to do a concatenate, I'd say, go to this data, and I want you to consolidate the name and the surname into one cell. And it'll learn, it'll know, it'll say, oh, you mean concatenate, and it'll do it for you.
Nice.
Show
It is
us. You have
impressive,
all
eh?
the time. Show us. Show us.
I mean, how long would that take you in normal terms, even if you know Excel? I mean, I'm the Excel king, and I couldn't do it for that long. Yeah, essentially, I know your question. So let me answer that while I switch on my presentation again, because I want to take you through the process now. So the answer to your question is yes. So if you can say it in words, Copilot will figure it out. So what Zentle is asking, can you do analysis across multiple tabs? You can tell it, I would like you to go across multiple tabs and multiple documents. So the better way to do that is to first use the data feature where you can bring data sources in. But if you know what you're doing, and that's the point, this is trial and error. You just got to know what you're doing. I mean, we've got a guy here who I work with. He was showing me some of the stuff he's been doing on Excel. It's ridiculous, you know, just by understanding the thinking. So if you understand business logic, it's how AI works. You understand the business logic, it generates the code. So if you can say to it, go to this document, on this table, I want you to compare sales there to here. It'll know how to do that. And if it can't, it'll ask you. Plus, it'll learn next time that you don't even have to ask it. The next time you say, create my report, please, it'll know what to create. Okay, so I've given you an indication of how you can use it in chat, how you can use it in Word, how you use it in PowerPoint and Excel. And then I've given you examples of an agent. I just want to show you one more very quick agent, and then I'll take 10, 15 minutes to explain the strategy. So this agent here is a field service agent. So I'm not going to run the video, but I'll send you a link of where you can get hold of it. But it's an agent where if somebody says this thing's broken, here's the code. The agent can type it in and say, laptop broken, code says this. And it'll go to a SharePoint site and it'll go and find the answer and bring in the answers to how to solve that problem. So it's created an agent for field service people to source troubleshooting. Now, this one even has processes that if you have to check it in, so now you can't fix it, the field service agent can say, customer number this, would like to do this, this, and this, I'm needing to check it in. And then the agent will check that I've got all the information. If it's got all the information, it'll say, right, off you go. If it doesn't have the right information, it'll keep asking you. So that's this logic of moving to agents. Okay, so I really hope I've got you excited. So let's just talk about how you do this. So the first thing I want to mention is what I said is take time to build the AI organization. So the best way to do this is run a series of pilots. So if you're new to Copilot 365, as opposed to Copilot Chat, the best way to do this is identify very specific workloads and use cases, and then show the value on those use cases. So I do a lot of work in HR. So learning and development, HR, creating policies, things like that, because there's a very quick business case you can build there. The other area we do a lot of work is in financial, creating reports and analytics and things like that, because it's such a quick win. So by starting to build out, we're going to be an AI-ready organization. Create a committee if you don't have it already, and start building that out. Then you look at your enablement, so it becomes broader, and then start looking at your business processes. This is where you become frontier, where you start looking at replacing a lot of the stuff that right now is starting to get outdated with an agentic AI lens rather than trying to build apps. It's just a different way of thinking. So the first thing that I want to mention here with this approach is please don't do it for the technology's sake. So if you can't do the business case, and again, that's part of the work we look at, is if it can't generate revenue growth, cost reduction, ROI, and efficiency, don't buy it. It's that simple. It can't just be, man, it's going to save me time. If it saves me time, what do I do with that time? Does it mean that I've got a better customer experience? Can I respond better? Can I reduce my overheads? And so that's what you got to do up front.
For the people that want
is to make sure that you do that. The other one is please develop use cases that solve genuine business problems, not people who shout the loudest. So understand where your company could benefit the most, pilot there. Please start with the use case. A lot of people do a lot of training, and the training is fairly generic. And if I don't know the use case, it's difficult to apply it. So if you come on training and you know your use case, then it's a lot easier to help people. So what we find is people say it's lovely, but they haven't really thought through the use case. So the way you work with Copilot, decide what you want to do before you figure out how to do it. So don't assume you can't. So there was a lovely one with, as I said, Brian the other day, where the marketing director said, Brian, I need this dashboard. So it wasn't the whether it could be done or not. She said, I want this dashboard. And he created magic. But it was because they identified the business problem and the use case. Brilliant. That's brilliant, having the forum. You see, I get sidetracked. I shouldn't have switched it on. Assess feasibility by determining if the organization can obtain and implement the technology. So there are underlying criteria. You've got to have the system put together properly, and then find strategic value by figuring out how you scale. And agents are brilliant for this. So agents are a great way to scale. And what you want to look at is if you saying, well, we can't possibly give everybody Copilot 365. The question then would be, okay, so who should get Copilot 365? And then how do we get people used to Copilot chat? And how do we use agents to fill the gap? Because with agents, yes, you're paying for use, but people aren't running these prompts all the time. So there's a real business case there as well to say, how do we scale this thing across the business? Now, here's some use cases we focus on. How can you empower your workforce? So automate, streamline workflows, boost efficiencies. How do you reinvent customer engagement? So this is a huge one. I'm working with a customer right now. They do support. And their stuff, they just don't have everything in one place. So I said, no, man, create an agent so that when the customer comes in, you type in their details and you get everything you need in the agent. It'll populate. And with a couple, it wasn't a huge amount of work. They managed to improve business outcomes like crazy because they already had the base material. They had the stuff. They just needed a better way to show it. And then you can start creating these personalized agents. So using Copilot Studio, you can start creating agents for customers and external that talk to internal. Again, you have to pay for use. Reshape business processes. So how do we do things? There's a time to have a look at if our processes are working effectively, and then drive innovations. It's all about insights. So what is the data teaching me? And the other part is accelerating product development engineering. So by having the right agents. Now, I mentioned to you that you do have to have this thing set up, but if you've got a great 365 environment and the securities are properly set up there, and you are using the use rights and all of the tools that 365 gives you, know that your data is 100% secured here. So whatever your use rights are with as a 365 user, that is what Copilot can go find. It can't go to databases and data that isn't part of their use rights. So as long as you set that up, and that's why I've made this example on the right-hand side, it is fully secure. The data is always secured, whether at rest or moving. It doesn't train models. You control, the data and who gets access, and you've got all of the securities that are applied, including copyright protection. So the lovely thing about Copilot is it references everything, and if it senses there's a copyright infringement, it has guardrails that stop that. If you get sued by anybody for copyright infringement and you can prove it's Copilot's fault, Microsoft will help you defend that case. That's how strongly they feel about this. So that's why you do need your infrastructure right, your technical people involved. So the first thing is look at it from a business, identify the use case, make sure you've got the security and governance in place. The second part with the user adoption. I do a lot of user adoption for a living. And the thing that I found is you have to get people excited about using it. So the more you give them great prompts, examples, and with Copilot, you can share all your prompts that everybody can get access to. So the big thing you want to do is teach them how to prompt. Whether they've got Copilot 365 or Copilot Chat, prompt science is exceptionally important. So you have to learn how to write really good prompts. It's like learning a programming language. I'm busy doing, through one of the universities, I'm busy doing a 3-month program on prompt writing skills. And you cannot believe the detail that can go into it. Then you start with Copilot Chat, get people using Copilot as the user interface. So in other words, do what I do. You go into the chat before you do anything else. Or you're using Copilot in your daily environments. So the more you use it, the more you're getting your value. Look at repetitive work. When do you find yourself doing the same thing over and over again? So to the point, if we are formatting presentations and creating documents and formatting those and copying and pasting, that's all automated work. Encourage responsible use of AI. Teach them what responsible use is, like IP protection, oversharing, the dangers of all of that. Empower smarter decision making. So teach them the analytics, and then track AI adoption and optimize over time. So I've found if you go in this order, first get them excited on chat, let them use the wider Copilot, have a look at the real business case of automating, encourage responsible use, and then look at the analytics. Now, a couple of things that I've learned. Number one, build a skill for the role. So yes, you can learn how it works, but build user guides based on the use case. So, a finance person is going to need Copilot for stuff very different to what HR or a front end or a salesperson. So what you want to look at here is, can you build the skills for the role? So yes, you can learn how it works, but the next step would be, how does it talk to the user role? And then structured learning paths. This thing is a continuous learning. You need to go on a journey of learning. It's not something you wake up one day and you can do it. So things like lunch and learn sessions and updates and online learning and videos and hackathons and all sorts of things like, or not a hackathon, sorry, a promptathon. There are a lot of clever ways that you can structure a learning path and encourage experimentation. And then I love this one. How could you measure AI use to business goals? I don't know the full answer there. We're busy trying to figure that one out. And please create feedback loops. So the first part I said is build an environment, the AI environment. The second one would be the onboarding. So again, please, anytime you want more detail on these processes, some really good documents that Microsoft have made available that we could talk to you about. And then the third one is, right, now we get to the real business case, which is how do we look at our current workflows and productivity? So now we want to expand to these intelligent agents. So there are a couple of things that you can look at. So the first one is a really good Copilot business impact report. So if you want to have a look at where you can get the biggest benefit, I'm happy to take you through this. I just realized there's not a lot of time. So just go and have a look at this. We'll give, we'll send you the link, but there you can have a look at where the elements are. And then this is how you prioritize the workflows. Business impact and value, number one. What is the challenge? Can it improve bits? Is it scalable? Then look at feasibility and readiness. Doesn't help that you start prioritizing workflows and there's too much involved. So is there infrastructure? Is the data secured? And can we implement? And then the big one, count the numbers. I've got a whole series of measurables, as we're saying here, about aligning KPIs to business goals. Also, what are you going to measure? Because that's the way you get people, the business, to then say, right, we're going to invest. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about today is when you start looking at AI, the agents, this thing goes all the way from very simple interrogative kind of agents all the way through to advanced self-learning agents. So I'm not going to go into detail on this, but if you look at the basic information, I can just ask questions, IT help desk. I can track projects. Now it's getting more intelligent. I can request a device update and it automates that process. I could have a process for budget management. Again, it's getting higher there. And then lead gen agent. Now it's identifying who to talk to and can automatically communicate. So now we're getting autonomous here. And a customer one, which is it's identified support issues and even figuring out how it can fix it and notifying people. So there's this whole continuum. Once you get used to this, get the basic stuff, and then through that Copilot Studio, you start building some seriously advanced agents. Now, right now, you can do the first two. So Microsoft 365 and the Copilot Studio, they're testing this in America. The advanced component, the autonomous. All right, so that's what I wanted to show you. Now, before I hand over to Charlotte, just if you are looking at training, and this isn't an unashamed plug, I just want you to know these courses are available. So if you want to learn about the prompting and chat, we've got a one-day course there. If you want to know about Copilot 365, specifically in Word, Excel, Teams, Outlook, and PowerPoint, etc., that is 4018, and then 4019 teaches you how to create an agent. So it teaches you how to create a no-code agent using Copilot Studio. And then I'm not going to talk through this slide, but if you'd like to see all of the Copilot courses, I just wanted to show you there are courses for your IT pros that looks at user enablement, security, compliance, etc. If you are building apps, so if you are using Copilot Studio and Power Platform, there are a series of courses, and there are development courses that look at building these connectors and plugins and custom agents. All right. You're 3 minutes to go. How good was that? So let me go through any questions, Charlotte. Do you want to chat? And I'll have a look at the questions. If you want to talk about the activation quickly.
No problem. I don't see any new questions in the chat.
Okay.
There's the link to the Microsoft course in the chat, as well as the redemption code. Yesterday, I shared an email with the link as well and a walkthrough guide. Please reach out if there's any problems. Leonie, I see you've got.
Yeah, so I just have one question. I just want to understand. So say we give this to a product development area, and today they do very manual discovery of what the customer's needs are, what products the customers are looking for, and they do market analysis, comparing us to other banks and stuff like that. It's very manual. So if we can create them an agent to go and do this discovery, okay, my problem is, how do we measure the impact that the agent has got? How do you work out how much time they previously spent compared to what they do now? Yeah, for me, it's to quantify that business case. and to demonstrate the impact that the agent have on their role.
Yeah. It's a great thing to pilot, by the way, to compare it. So say we give it to a couple of agents, let's compare it to the typical time taken to resolve. So if there is a way of time taken to resolve, time taken to complete, there is quite a lot of analytics built into Copilot that allows you to see what were they using, how were they using it, and it even creates a business case. But I would be very keen to chat to you about that, saying, if we ran the test, where could we pick up those numbers, and are they quantifiable in real money terms? Because if you can be more competitive and you can argue that this agent has won so many deals against other banks because they could respond more quickly and they had better information at their fingertips, or they could process much more quickly. There are ways of measuring that. So please send me an email and let's have that conversation. I'd love to spend some time with you on that.
Thank you.
Good, great question. So please, you have got my email address, tim.keys@impactful. I'll quickly type it here. Please have the conversations with us. This really is about working together. So if you have any questions or would like to discuss this further, please feel free to reach out. And I look forward to engaging with you. Has everybody done the activation? It just gives you access to some really nice content around how to prompt and some more demos. Plus, it gets recorded that you've attended this program. So you have it now you have it listed in your transcript. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Any final questions or comments before we call it? It's 1:30 on the dot. How's that? All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate that.
Sorry, Tim, just a brief one as the guy's dropping off. I just had to take another call. Where do we put in the registration code?
So
I've clicked the link. There was something about this. You need this code to redeem.
Yeah. The code is here, but it should be pre-populated.
The code is... Oh, I see. It's in the URL redeem. Okay, so I'm in.
Yeah.
And then this gives us access to how long?
Forever and ever.
Okay. Okay, that's good.
Good. Thank you, Albert. It was good having you on the program.
Cheers, man. Thanks so much, Tim. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.